Hey friends, it's Laura with Laura B. Floss Tube. Welcome or welcome back. I'm so glad you joined me today. I have got the coolest project ever lined out for my next up in the craft room. I have found this really cool new designer, well, new to me designer, that she does a lot of modern quilting. She's done lots of speaking engagements. I actually got her to agree to come and speak at our Quilt Guild's annual meeting this next June in 2025. I am super excited about that. But she has this super cute pattern called the Berry Jam. Her name is Tia Curtis. She's from Leavenworth, Kansas. And I absolutely love this project. Now, she does have some kits that she sells on her website, and she definitely has this pattern available in both print and PDF format, so you can go to her website and download it. Now, I am not getting paid. I am not getting sponsored or anything, so don't even think that. I just ran across this pattern and I thought, ooh, I can do something with this. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I'm gathering up for this pattern and how I'm going to approach it. And then I'm also going to tell you some tweaks that I'm going to do to it. So make sure you stay tuned till the end of the video and I will give you a rundown of all of the things. So before we do anything else, we're going to head to the cutting table and talk through the first thing I get to do today. Alright, so if you've watched me for a while, you know that I love all things Lori Holt, and I have a ton of Lori Holt quilts that I've made, and I also have a ton of Lori Holt scraps that I still have in my pile. This pattern is going to give me something really cool and a little bit of mindless sewing, honestly, because sometimes don't you just want something you can just sit down and sew and sew and sew, or as today, cut and cut and cut, and not really have to think too much through what you're doing. Well, that's where we're at today. I'm going to be cutting all of my stuff today. I'm not going to show you all of it because, well, there's a lot, but I am going to show you how I'm going to get started with this and how I'm going to sort it to keep track of it, and how I'm modifying the original pattern just to fit my scrappy need. All right, on my craft table, I have a 3-yard cut of a 108 that I actually bought this from my brother. He bought it from Marshall Dry Goods. This is one of their 108 wide back. It's kind of a marbly look. It honestly reminds me kind of about the grunge. It has a pretty good feel to it. It's really nice and thick. I've used this on lots of backs of my quilts and I've always been very happy and pleased with the results. So this week I'm going to be using it to cut my background strips for this pattern. So let me get this unfolded and folded back the way I need it so I can start cutting those strips. All right, so I folded this fabric so I can manage it on my cutting mat, and it is folded a couple times. So I am going to be just like cutting my strips here. I'm not going to tell you the widths that I'm cutting my strips because that is part of the pattern. And if you want to know that information, you need to purchase the pattern from Tia. I will tell you that I have 2 buckets here beside me because I'm going to kind of control my Scrappy a little bit and control my strips a little bit and just understand that you know, she has a lot of great ideas, and I am using some of them and not using some others. So it will be super fun for you to do this in your craft room. If you like cutting, this is going to be your jam. I mean, it's going to be amazing. You're going to be in love. This is definitely a modern style quilt. There really isn't, like, she has a pattern obviously, but there isn't like a ton of rules with this. And actually, I am going to swing this around a little bit just to make this easier for myself on cutting. I'm not going to cut all the strips that I'm probably going to need today, but I'm just going to cut enough to get me started. Now the pattern does call for fat quarters. You could totally use fat quarters with that. I'm going to use some scraps left over and some scrappy fat quarters. Just going to do a few more here. And then I'm going to move on and tell you how I'm going to do this with all of my scraps. Alright, I think that'll give us a good start. Alright, so I have this huge stack of scraps. And they are anything from teeny tiny to almost a fat quarter. But I am just going to layer these up on my cutting mat. And I'm going to take several at a time. And I don't really care too much about the size. I don't really care too much about the length. I just really kind of care about whether or not I like it, I guess. If I like the fabric, then it's gonna go in the pile. All right, so this is where I'm at with my scraps. These are just gonna be the first few. And what I plan on doing is, since I do not have a 108 long scrap, I'm going to cut all these little bitty strips into the same widths as I did my background fabric. And they're going to go in the bucket with the same size scraps. Now, you wouldn't have to do that. You could just put them in their own little buckets. But that's how I'm going to accomplish this. All right, so we're going to cut a few. We're just going to keep cutting on these. Now, if I have any like this where I need to square it up, I'm just going to take it and cut off the end. That'll help me later. And like this one here, this is not going to work. So I'll cut it down. I'm not worrying about the selvages. I'm not worrying about I'm not worrying about much, I guess I should say. I do want a good combination of both of the sizes that I had my backgrounds cut at. And as I work my way through the pile of colors, I will definitely have that. Anything that's too small, I'm just going to toss, because like I said, I have used, these are scraps, right? And I have used these scraps and used these scraps and used these scraps to the point that I am kind of getting tired of them. And there's a lot of them that it's going to be difficult to have enough to truly have much going on. Now see how this one's kind of funky? I'm just going to cut it off like that. And we're going to swing this around to here and put this on a line that I know will work. And same with this little guy. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep going through the pile. And I'm just going to keep layering and layering and layering. And what's really cool about this process is that it doesn't really matter if the fabrics are, exactly straight, because, you're just cutting strips off of them. And if they're fully flat, you don't have to worry about all those little buckles and stuff that you sometimes get. If it's folded fabric, and you can just keep cutting. This is like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a therapeutic, mindless cutting session, I'm sure. So I'm going to keep cutting, and then I will catch up with you when I start sewing. I have quite the collection of strips cut now. I have a bunch in here, and I have another collection over here, and this is going to be great mindless sewing for me, because basically what I'm going to do is just go through here, pull out two strips that, they could be the same color, they could be different colors, they could be whatever, and just sew them end to end. And I'm going to do that until pretty much all of them are sewn together. So let's get started here. And this is where I'm gonna be for quite a while. So I might swing you down so you can see. So there's not much more to tell about this process at this point, except that I'm just gonna be sewing my strips end to end to end to end. So if you are interested in how this project is going to progress, then I would suggest you tune in another time. I will do updates for the video as time allows. For this series, and just so you know, if you're looking on the channel for videos that are related, this is the Berry Jam quilt. That's what you'll be looking for. Now, I will also tell you, I did not worry too much if I had a little selvage or something. I'm just gonna move that next strip down a little bit. And as you can tell right here, this strip was actually sewn together twice before because I think it was binding for a quilt. So I just happened to have it 2.5 inch strips. And yeah, so just trying to grab different colors along the way. And all of these colors will work fine because they are all of those Lori fabric tones. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing for quite some time. But hey, tune in again for the next video and I will show you what else I'm going to do with this. Just to wrap up for today and just to give you a little more information on why I chose to do this, I have done so many of the Lori Holt applique quilts, and I had kits and I had fabrics left over and they were taking up a lot of space, but they weren't really like in a way that I was just going to use them, and I didn't want to cut them all up into little bitty squares, and so I ran across this pattern and I thought this is the solution. So like I said, I have a bunch of strips. I'm just going to sew them end to end to end, and then tune in next time to see what happens with all those strips when they get moved on to the next step. Hey, I hope until next time you're finding joy in all you do. Carve out some time for crafting and creating, and make sure it's always happy stitching.